Before the main speaking program of today's March for Racial Justice, demonstrators marched from the Justice Department to the National Mall in Washington, D.C. Here's a look.
Let's go. Hey, hey! Ho, ho! These racist policies got to go! Hey, hey! Ho, ho! These racist policies got to go! Hey, hey! Ho, ho! These racist policies got to go! Hey, hey! Ho, ho! These racist policies got to go! Hey, hey! Ho, ho! These racist policies got to go! Hey, hey! Ho, ho! These racist policies got to go! Hey, hey! Ho, ho! These racist policies got to go! Hey, hey! Ho, ho! These racist policies got to go! Hey, hey! Ho, ho! These racist policies got to go! Hey, hey! Ho, ho! These racist policies got to go! Hey, hey! Ho, ho! These racist policies got to go! Hey, hey! Ho, ho!
We are here in front of the Department of Justice. When we think of black women, no one thinks about the Department of Justice and how long a history we've had with the Department of Justice and their state-sponsored rapes of black women, their state-sponsored killings of black women, the state-sponsored lynching of black women. Laura Nelson, the state, say their names. Laura Nelson, Joan Little, Corey Gaines, Tamika Jenkins, Sandra Bland, T.T. Dangerfield, Rosa Parks wrote thousands of letters to the Department of Justice. It's in there somewhere. It's in there somewhere. Rosa Parks was our champion and knew that we had rights and that the Department of Justice owed us everything. What does the Department of Justice owe black women? Everything. What does the Department of Justice owe black women? Everything. Say their names. China Doll Dupree. Say their names. Baby Jeans Owen. Say their names. Misha Caldwell. Say their names. Relisha Rudd. Nashiria Barksdale. Reese Taylor. Fannie Lou Hamer. Sharita Davis. Zarika Banner. Carla Grove. Claudette Coleman. And all of our mothers and daughters and sisters and grandmothers and great-grandmas. Whose bodies, whose blood, from these streets. What does the Department of Justice owe us?
Everything!
What does the Department of Justice owe us?
Everything!
Hey, reparations.
What do we want?
What do we want? Now! What do we want? Justice! We want it now! What do we want? Justice! We want it now! What do we want? Justice! When do we want it?
Everybody take a look at this building, because this is the building where this policy that killed our brothers and sisters come from. Yeah? These are the policies, this is the building where our people are suffering from. We hold the Department of Justice to account across this nation. That's why we're here. We hold racist policies, racist policing, surveillance in our communities to account. That's why we're here. That's why we're here. We want everybody to know where this building is. Because this is where your complaints need to go. This is where your letters need to go. This is where your actions direction needs to go. And that's what we'll be doing when we march for black women. When we march for racial justice.
Here we are.
That's what this is about.
Now let me take a break. I love you. Where we going? We're going everywhere? Oh yeah, this is all right. I just say we're about to move. Shame on you. Let's get all the black people. Oh, black women. Black women. Shame on you. Hey. DOJ. Oh yeah. Shame on you. Oh. DOJ. Shame on you. DOJ. Shame on you. DOJ. Shame on you.
All right, listen. So there's two banners. Everybody needs to be behind it as we walk towards 11th Street. At 11th Street, the marshals will stop the banners and everybody will be behind it. We will kneel down in front of the Department of Justice. So, first things first, the black women lead us so you can get behind them. Is that clear? We have the banners first. Please, follow me this way. Just the banners, just the banners. The marshals will stop you once everybody fills in. It's about 4 or 5 blocks of us. We will kneel in front of the Department of Justice. Okay? Let's do it. Start to stand, somebody. Start to stand now this way. Nobody should pass the black women. Everybody should be behind them. Watch the lead in. women will turn their backs, and the rest of us will kneel in solidarity of them. So on 3, the black women, turn your backs. They will do it first.
We need to back up some more so everybody can get a nice shot, okay?
Turn your backs to the Department of Justice.
Black women, turn your backs!
Black women, turn your backs to the Department of Justice. They seek the Bank of America, because the Department of Justice is behind them.
This way.
Everybody who is not a black woman, now kneel in solidarity with your black sisters.
Take a knee, brother.
If you're not a black woman, take a knee.
All the press, take a knee.
All the press, if you're snapping pictures, take a knee.
Take a knee.
Take a knee. Take a knee. If you're not going to take a knee, come back.
If you're taking pictures, take a knee. Now we're going to have one.
It's almost like standing up, but you said no, we're not. It's not bowing to anybody. Solidarity.
Michaela Angela Davis, a writer on African American style, race, gender, and hip-hop culture. Farah Tanis, the co-founder and executive director of the Black Women's Blueprint. Teresa Younger, who is the president and CEO of the Ms. Foundation for Women, and she will actually be one of the moderators and narrators of the event. We'll also hear from Gina Belafonte and numerous performances. We're live at the Washington Mall.
To stand for Black women and for racial justice. All right? Black lives matter. Black lives matter.
Black lives matter.
Black lives matter.
Black lives matter.
Black lives matter.
Black lives matter.
Black women 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 matter.
Come on, I can't hear y'all. Black women matter.
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 Black lives 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 matter.
No justice. No justice.
No
No
peace.
justice.
No peace.
No justice.
No peace.
No justice.
No peace.
No racist.
Police.
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 When Black women are under attack, what do? Stand up, fight back. When Black women are under attack, what do?
Stand up, fight back.
When Indigenous women are under attack, what do?
Stand up, fight back.
When Muslim women are under attack, what do?
Stand up, fight back.
When any of us are under attack, what do?
Stand up, fight back.
What do?
Stand up, fight back.
What do?
Stand up, fight back.
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 No justice.
No peace.
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 No Trump. No KKK. No racist USA. 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 All right, what do we think about white supremacy? Boo! We want them to hear us louder. What do we think about white supremacy? It's got to go. And we see over the past year, the white supremacy is now sitting in the White House. It's been in this country since the very beginnings. But today we see an administration that is intent on marginalizing our communities, on taking our lives, taking our jobs, taking our health care, and ignoring the unnatural disasters that are happening across the country and across the world to the countries that are right in the Caribbean and neighboring countries that are suffering all these disasters that can be prevented with resources and support and funding. So what do we want? When do we want it? Now. What do we want? When do we want it? Hey, hey, ho, ho. White supremacy's got to go. Hey, hey, ho, ho. White supremacy's got to go. Hey, hey. White supremacy has got to go. Hey, hey. White supremacy has got to go. Hey, hey. White supremacy has got to go. Ho, ho. White supremacy has got to go. Donald Trump has got to go. Hey, hey. Ho, ho. Donald Trump has got to go. Hey, hey. Ho, ho. Donald Trump has got to go. Hey, hey. Ho, ho. Jeff Sessions has got to go. Hey, hey. Ho, ho. Jeff Sessions has got to go. Hey, hey. Ho, ho. Jeff Sessions has got to go. All right. So one last time. Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter. Black women 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 matter. All right. Thank you. Thank you very much, Aquila. Let's give a round of applause for that chanting. All right, y'all. My name is Agundo Keo, organizer here for the March for Racial Justice. And without further ado, we're going to start our speeches, right? We're going to have a real conversation about white supremacy, a real conversation about our responsibility to have uncomfortable conversations, all right? So without further ado, let me go ahead and welcome to the stage the president of the Ms. Foundation, Teresa Younger. Hello. Hola. Are y'all ready? Who walked? Who marched here? I didn't hear you. If you marched here like that, nobody heard you. Who marched here? Yeah.
So first off, thank you. Second off, let's just take 1 second to appreciate this amazing weather that we have, but recognize we have brothers and sisters in other parts of this country and down in the global south and down in Puerto Rico who can't be with us today, right? So just 1 second. Join me for 1 second as we send them our love. All right, let's get going here. Welcome to the March for Racial Justice. All right. Are we ready? Are we ready for this? We have some amazing speakers, and I can't even begin to tell you how excited I am for it. But before we get going, I want to make sure we get started on both the right and the left foot. As a nation, we are standing at a crossroads. And I don't have to tell you all this because we know it. But in one direction, we have a future that is riddled with scandal, peppered with disinformation and misinformation, and steeped in indifference. Is that the way we want to go? No, it's not. However, in the other direction is a really rough road. It is going to be a hard one for us to handle. But it is the road of hope and redemption. It is the road of a future that actually respects us all. What I'm talking about is a road that actually asks us to speak truth to power, okay? So this is not necessarily about, making us all feel warm and fuzzy. We have work to do. And we can't let one person or 5 people or even 150 people make a determination of what we need to be doing in order to create a safe, free, and just world for everybody. So let's just confront the lie of white supremacy that holds back all of us. Black and brown, trans and cis, rich and poor, enlightened and blind. Let's just understand that white supremacy is not just those who carry torches down the road and chant with us. It's not just those who feel so emboldened to take off their hoods so that they can march before us. White supremacy is entrenched in everything we do. It is the principle by which this country was developed on, and now is the time in 2017 for us to say no more. What are we saying? I don't think I heard you. What are you saying?
No more!
That's right. So we just need to take note that we are going to be about having what I call uncomfortable conversations, right? If you are sitting and the water is rising, you move to a higher level. But if you are at the top of the hill, the rising water never touches you. So this is about having uncomfortable conversations, not just with people we know or don't know. It's about asking a question just once or twice. It's going to be hard. It's going to be long. We actually have to call out what it is: racism, sexism, patriarchy, all these ills that constantly are in front of us. And now's the day, and now's the time. But I want to remind us, because some of us think of Martin Luther King as having this, we're going to all love and peace and respect each other. And he was about love and peace and respect, but he was about speaking truth to power. He was about radical love. So I want to call on the words of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who called on us to radical love so many years ago. He said, "I come here today to plead with you. Believe in yourself and believe you are somebody. You are somebody." I talked to a group last night. Nobody else can do this for us. No document can do this for us. No Lincolnian Emancipation Proclamation can do this for us. No Johnson Civil Rights Bill can do this for us. If the Negro is to be free, he must move down into the inner resources of his own soul and sign with a pen and ink of self-assertion, personhood, of his own Emancipation Proclamation. Don't let anybody take your personhood. Be proud of your heritage. We don't have anything to be ashamed of. Somebody told a lie one day. We know this lie. They couched it in language. They made everything black, ugly, and evil. Look it up in your dictionaries and see the word synonymous for black. It's always something degrading, low, and sinister. Look at the word white. It's always something pure and high and clean. Well, we want you to use the right language today. We need to also remember to forgive. I want to get the language so right that everyone here will cry out, "Yes, I'm black. I'm proud of it. I'm black. I'm beautiful." I'll say that again, just so you understand. Because, well, the color of my skin may be black. I am divided like so many of us here. I am made up like so many of us here of Native peoples and white peoples. But today I stand in front of you and I say, yes, I'm black and I'm proud of it. I'm black and I am beautiful. Today we lift up the voices that cry out for radical love. This is the pathway forward. This is what you are going to hear today in word and song and poetry, because it is why we marched. We marched for liberation, for justice, for unavoidable and unnecessary struggle to uproot white supremacy. And I want you to join me today as we commit to calling white supremacy what it is when we see it. And that we understand that if we don't raise the question, nobody will do it for us. You see, we have to do this together. It is not about black people or indigenous communities. It is not about our trans folks or our LGBT communities. This is about us together. So turn to the person next to you. Turn to them. Say, I am in this with you. No, I didn't hear you. Say, I am in this with you. Now turn to a person that you don't know and introduce yourself. Introduce yourself. We are community, and I am in this with you. Know that we are in this together. We're going to stand here and sit here, and we're going to be part of this moment together. And then we're going to leave here, and we're going to join everybody in whatever city they are in, and we are going to do this together. How are we going to do this? Wait, I didn't hear you. How are we going to do this? All right, that's how we're going to do it. So let's get started. Are you ready? Are you? All right, I'm gonna just wrap up one moment with my favorite quote, and I said it this morning. So if you were with us when we marched for Black women, you'll have heard this. But I will just say to you all, I want you to be the kind of woman or man, or however you identify, that when your feet hit the ground in the morning, the devil says, "Oh shit, she's up." Let's do it. Let's be that kind of community. Let's make that happen. We can do that. We can be part of it today. All right, let's get going. Are we ready? Are you ready for some of these speakers today? I'm going to tell you, you stay to the end, you get the reward. I won't even tell you who it is. But we're going to start off as strong as we can be. We're going to start off with Johnny J. And let me just tell you, she's a board member of Not Your Mascots and Live Indigenous OK. She's a writer and a speaker and an advocate. She is the founder and CEO of a tribe called Geek, and she is here with us today because we need to know where we stand. Johnny J, come on up.
Halito Chamachakma. Thank you all for being here today. There are people in this nation who don't understand why we are here. They don't understand why we can't turn a blind eye, why we can't leave well enough alone. Haven't they given us enough? There are people who believe that we are causing division and hate for bringing awareness to the experiences and struggles of our communities. They believe that we need to be polite and sacrifice everything that we are, our languages, identities, spirituality, cultures, and communities in order for us to be worthy of life, liberty, and justice. But for those of us who walk in this world with melanin-filled skin, who choose to love out loud or have obvious disabilities and differences, whatever they may be, we know that it doesn't matter how polite. It doesn't matter how educated or obedient or silent or how invisible we try to make ourselves. We are othered. For those of us with brown and black skin, the consequences of being othered are deadly because the color of our skin fills those who see it with a subconscious fear so deep that without even thinking, people clutch their purses or shoot on sight. Murder, rape, imprisonment, slavery, genocide, inequality, and injustice, that is why we are here. Because we need to assert that we will not be broken, defeated, eradicated. We do not raise our voices or our fists with hatred or division in our hearts. We raise them in radical, revolutionary love. And that love is so strong that it has called all of us here today, regardless of our backgrounds, regardless of our differences. Because we have come here to restore an innate link back to our humanity, because we were not born knowing how to hate or discriminate. We were not born believing that the moral aptitude or worthiness of life, liberty, and justice was determined by the color of your skin, sexuality, spirituality, wealth, or community. We were taught, and we can, and we are choosing to untangle ourselves from the web of colonization and oppressive power systems that are the very foundation of this nation. And we need to be unapologetically honest about our experiences, and that's what I'm going to do. Yesterday, as I walked around this city, I realized that as an indigenous woman from the Otoe, Missouri, and Choctaw nations, that I am in the belly of the beast. I am in the midst of a city so steeped in anti-indigeneity that it is a source of pride and tradition, where it is not only okay to use a racial slur that denigrates indigenous people, but it is celebrated. This is a city where the mockery of our identities, our cultures, and everything that our ancestors died for occurs on any given Sunday with no thought to the racism and harm they are perpetuating. This is a city and a nation that missed the irony of Washington Redskins players taking a knee while wearing a jersey that represents the racism and discrimination that we face as Indigenous people. Now, some of you may be thinking that it's just a name, just a mascot. We have bigger issues, but representation matters. And it impacts our realities, both social, education, professional, even our political realities. We are less than 2% of the US population, yet we are the most likely to be killed by police. And rates of homicide and sexual violence, incarceration, suicide, poverty are anywhere from 2 to 10 times the rate of national averages of any ethnic group. Our women and girls are murdered and disappeared. And just a few weeks ago, one of my aunts joined that number. And those losses hit our communities hard. And many believe that the progress made for and by other communities will trickle down to our communities. But that's not the reality. Because we are not asking whether or not justice is even possible on stolen lands. We are not working to envision what that will even look like. We are not working together. We do not know each other. We do not know how to communicate with each other, but we're trying. Over the last year, we saw that progress being made at Standing Rock. We saw people from all walks of life coming together to support one tribe. But that is just one tribe. There are over 567 more sovereign nations that need to be supported, who are battling pipelines in their own lands as well as other issues. We are facing the destruction of our land and water, and also our communities. As we support the movements and communities working toward justice for their people, we ask that you continue to support us, that you continue to remember us, as we assert that we are still here as Indigenous people. You know, one of the things that I really want people to understand is that we are less than 2% of the population. Our numbers are at 5 million among this entire US population. And people don't understand the significance of that. But what those numbers means is that we have survived the maximum efforts of one of the world's greatest superpowers. We're still here. And we ask that we support, because we are in this together, and none of us are free until all of us are free. Thank you.
See, this isn't about us. This isn't about any one of us. This is about what we are doing for those we love, those whose shoulders we stand on, and those who will come after us, right? Right? That is what this is about. This is for the 7 generations that will come after us. What world do we want to leave them? This next person I shouldn't even have to introduce, because you know her. And you know her because, unfortunately, she was faced with the tragedy that this country does to black and brown men on a daily basis. This is the mother of Fernando Castillo, the founder of the Fernando Castillo Relief Fund. Come on, join me as we bring to the stage Valerie Castillo.
Wow. Is this solidarity? Thank you, thank you, thank you for all of you coming out. Now this is what solidarity looks like. We're all in this together. Each and every last one of you. We are here to support one another as we fight for justice. I'm Valerie. My son was Philando Castile. It's been 452 days since I last saw my son, when I last hugged my son, when I last kissed my son, when I last told my son that I loved him. My son was taken at a very early age under such horrific actions. My son did everything right. I did everything humanly possible to protect my kids. I said, if you want to carry a weapon, go get your license. My son started working when he was 13 years old, and he was gainfully employed until he was ruthlessly murdered by the Falcon Heights police. After all that, we did everything we could, all the evidence they had video from the dash cam in the car. They had audio, and then they had the aftermath, which I'm sure a lot of you saw my son take his last breath. And in his last breath, he did a dying declaration where he said, I wasn't reaching. He told the officer, he said, sir, I have a weapon in the car. And instead of him giving my son direct commands to stop moving, don't worry about the license, just put your hands where I can see him, he shot in that car with no regards for human life. He shot my son 5 times. 5 times. And he was still strapped in the seatbelt. My son knew what he needed to do when he got stopped by the police. At the age of 32, he started driving when he was 17. In those short amount of years, my son had been stopped 50 times. 50 times my son had been stopped by the police. And he was only 32 years old. You do the math, that don't make no sense. And they say there's no racial profiling. They're not stereotyping. You tell me what it is. These are some things that you need to ask yourself. Use your common sense. My son did everything right. He tried to protect the woman and the child by informing the officer that he had a weapon. The weapon was not shoot ready. It was not a bullet in the chambers. I mean, come on. I got a weapon in the car. Oh, wait a minute. Let me get the gun out of my pants. Let me cock it, and now I'm going to shoot you. That don't make no sense. But my son lost his life. His lifeless body with bullets still protruding from his skin. How they had cut my son open trying to save his life. Because he was honest and he told the truth. I'm still wondering, where on this planet do you tell the truth and you be honest and you still be murdered by the police? Come on, somebody help me out right now. My son did everything right. He had an honest job. The only thing was wrong in his life, he was harassed by the police until they ultimately killed him. You gotta understand, the area that my son was traveling in, everybody in the state of Minnesota knew, don't go down Larpenteur. You go all the way out of your way, blocks out of the way, just not to pass through that little area because of the prejudice. We gonna call a spade a spade. Quit playing, you know it, and then you keep saying it's not. It is. Racism is alive. It's alive all over. Your next door neighbor. You know, right about now, in the culture that we living in, you know, I always knew there was a silent war on black people and people of color, but now it's not silent no more. They doing it out in the open. And then for a person to tell you, your video don't mean shit. You got video, audio, and it don't mean shit. That came out the police mouth. I'm not just saying that. I'm saying what the police said. And then the police pull over a white woman. She's scared. He said, what you afraid of? We just killed black people. Y'all saw it on TV, all on Facebook. Y'all saw it. Yeah, he did. He said that, and that's what it is, because that's what he believed. That's what he believed. Because racism is alive. They have infiltrated the government, the jails, the police department. White supremacists is all over the place. And they don't care, and they showing it even more. I mean, nowadays, you can't even walk down the street, some white person just, oh, nigga. They doing it all the time. I mean, I came here to speak from my heart and let you know how dissatisfied I was with the verdict, because they had everything that they needed. They had everything they needed for a conviction, and they didn't. They didn't, and I still don't understand how that happened. You had everything you needed. God gave you everything you needed. Right there, my son, right there. In the car, seatbelted in his car, the dash cam going, and him talking, having a conversation with my son. And then he just killed him. You got everything. You had everything, and nothing was still done. There is no accountability when it comes to the police. Absolutely. Fuck the police. Absolutely. My son was crucified in that car. His hair was the thorn crown. The seat belt was the cross. And the bullets were the nails. And that car was his coffin. And this is what happened to my son. And like I said, when they did that, let that man get off with no accountability, I said, you just gave them free reign to kill. Thank you fucking very much. And what they do, it wasn't 3 weeks later, they shot and killed Justine Damon. Yes, they did. They killed her too. So it'll be interesting how that plays out. It will be very interesting. But I'm coming to you from my heart, and I just want everybody to be careful out there, because you just don't know. You just don't know. I love my son. I miss him every day. And it could be you, your father, your brother, your sister, your cousin. It could be either one of you guys, because of no accountability. And what I want to see is taking away that get out of jail free card. I was in fear for my life. I was in fear for my life. We need to get rid of that get out of jail free card. Because once you do that, that will give the next officers pause before he pull the trigger and use deadly force. Right now, I'm working, you know, on police reform. I'm working with some of the police officers in Minnesota, and I'm working with a lot of people that are writing up proposals and different laws holding these officers accountable for their actions. We have to stand tall. We have to stick together. We have to stay unified. We have to stand in solidarity. And we have to march until we can't march no more. I want to thank everybody for coming out. And I love you guys. Wow. Thank you very much.
I told you we're in for a treat, didn't I? That is radical love. When we're talking radical love, we're talking about truth. And it doesn't make us feel good all the time. So let me introduce our next speaker, who is all about truth. And that truth doesn't always make us feel good. But she is somebody who doesn't sit by, she doesn't wait for things to come to her. She makes them happen. She is the former executive director of the Arab American Association in New York. She is one of the organizers of the 2017 Women's March. Help me welcome Linda Sessor.
How's everybody doing today? I don't know why, but I don't believe you. How is everybody doing today? I'm here today because when black women lead, I follow. It was a black woman who taught us that we must love and protect one another. It was a black woman who taught us that we can't have a single issue struggle because we don't live single issue lives. It was a black woman that taught us that when one of us is not free, none of us are free. It was a black or Aboriginal woman from Australia, Leela Watson, who inspired my activism through her words. And she said, if you have come here to help me, you are wasting your time. But if you have come here because you believe that your liberation is bound up with mine, then let us work together. It was also 94% of the black women electorate who did not vote for Donald Trump. Black women know what's up. I trust black women. Black women matter. My black Muslim sisters matter. When we work towards a world where black women matter and black people matter, then all of our lives matter. When black people's lives don't matter, none of your lives matter. I want to make something very clear, and this bothers me a little bit. Trump did not introduce racism to us. He did not introduce misogyny or sexism to us. He did not introduce homophobia or transphobia or Islamophobia. Donald Trump is just the symptoms of what this country has been plagued with since the days of its founding. I also want to make something else very clear and use this as a teaching moment. Let's get the word intersectionality straight. Intersectionality is not about black people and white people and Asian people organizing together. That's not what intersectionality is. Intersectionality is the intersections of the oppression, and that we can't dismantle anti-black racism without dismantling homophobia and Islamophobia and xenophobia and anti-Semitism. That is what intersectionality is all about. And when we say we march for racial justice, we march for black women and for all black people, every single one of them. We march for 11 million undocumented immigrants, not some of them, not DACA recipients, all of them, every single last one of them. When we say we march for racial justice, we say loud and clear that refugees, black and brown refugees to be more specific, are welcome here in this country.
We say no Muslim ban ever. We march because health care is a human right and my body is my choice. I was out here before Trump, and I will not be intimidated or silenced by cowardly white supremacists and racists. I will be here after Trump. The goal is not just the impeachment of one man, but the dismantlement of systems that have oppressed people of color for far too long. It's cool to be at a march, and I feel inspired to be here, but the real work happens in the communities that you come from. And I say that to my white sisters and brothers who are here. I welcome you here. I love when you are with us and amongst us in solidarity, but real solidarity is about changing the minds and hearts of the people that chose to put a fascist in the White House. So I will end by saying, if you are ever looking for me, if you want to know where I'm at, I'll be out here unapologetically Muslim, unapologetically Palestinian, following black women to justice.
All right, that's the definition of badass. How many badass have we had already? We've had a few. I'm going to introduce you to some more of them. Are you ready? Yes, you are. Okay. So let me bring up the co-founder of this very march we're all at today. She's an activist, a facilitator, an educator, and an artist. Help me welcome Darkest Davis.
I'm here today to show you what radical love means. This is my father. Wave to my father, wave daddy. So 6 years ago, my father was robbed and assaulted by police. And for the past 6 years, he has been battling to receive justice from the NYPD and from the New York City court systems and the federal court systems. This is the man who has loved me my entire life, who drove me to school from when I was 4 till when I was 18, even when I was embarrassed by it. This was the man who told me I could do and be anything I wanted. This is the man who has always pushed me to be my greatest, and he's the reason I'm standing here and talking to you like I am right now. And the love that he has shown me my entire life, when I watched what he went through, when I watched what he's still going through, I said to myself, what can your love do? What can your love do and show him that he is heard, that he is seen, that it doesn't matter what these courts or this justice system thinks, there's a space for him in this country. What is your love going to do to create that space? To create the country that he deserves to live in. That creates the country that my children, that my brother and my niece and my nephew and my mother, we all deserve to live in, that I deserve to live in. Everyone here has an opportunity to contribute, to love radically. Because I'm telling you right now, this is what my love did. Created the space with beautiful people to say we're not going to tolerate this anymore. And so I believe in the power to love each other and to see each other and to fight for each other and to heal with each other and to succeed together in this country. I believe we can see each other's histories and languages and see the expanse of our familyhood, because we are a family, and solidarity and intersectionality. And Sister Linda said it right. This is all of us fighting together. Black Lives Matter. And so I want to extend our hearts and our hands to Brooklyn, to Flint, to Standing Rock, to Pine Ridge, to Los Angeles, to Houston, to New Orleans, to Pompano Beach, that's where my daddy from, to Puerto Rico, to the U.S. Virgin Islands, to the Black, brown, indigenous, Asian, Pacific Islander, white, lesbian, gay, straight, bi, queer, trans, poor, inmate, citizen, immigrant, undocumented, disabled, abled, Muslim, Jew, Hindu, Buddhist, atheist, practitioner of Voodoo, Candomblé, and Yoruba. Brother, sister, mother, father, lover, and loved one, I see you, we see you. I believe you. I love you through action. You deserve to spend your days in dignity and in the pursuit of happiness. That's what's written in this Constitution and our country. And you deserve a country and a government and a system that respects your rights. And that's what we're fighting for. Thank you.
I'm just so glad to be here. I have no idea that I'll be standing before this many people telling the story because, when that night I was robbed in the store, they took me to the back of the store and robbed me, and one lady stayed. Everybody run. Everybody took off because they figured the cop was right, what they was doing. I just don't understand it. But I'm just so glad to be here to share the story with you. I had no idea. But right now I'm gonna have to take a knee for my dog.
Yes. 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 Thank you.
And we're going to keep the ball rolling. I'm going to introduce you to two women who I have privy of really knowing well. At the Ms. Foundation, we make small grants to women and women of color-led organizations throughout this country. Two of our grantee partners, in this work are with us today, and they were the organizers of the Black Women's March earlier today. Let me just introduce you to Farah Tanis, who is the co-founder and the executive director of the Black Women's Blueprint, and Monica Simpson, who is the executive director of Sister Song.
Ooh, hello, family. Hello, family. I didn't need to be on this stage today. I didn't have to march today. Neither did you. But we did despite the risk to ourselves, to our bodies, to our tired feet, leading us to this great national mall. And we did this as an army of Black women, an army of genderqueer, trans-identified, gender non-conforming, an army of all women, an army of women of color, an army of allies, an army of men here to break every chain. We stand here for those hardly ever invoked on these types of stages. All the girls, the sisters left in back alleys, in heaps on their bedroom or living room floors. You know the ones I'm talking about. This is to those left in building hallways, staircases, backroom parties, basement garages. We stand here for those who have survived sexual assault and any other form of violation along the continuum of the categories of violence reserved for femmes and females and women identified people, and especially our trans-identified sisters. We represent a multitude of generations of women weaving the pieces of our lives back together. We are seeking justice for harm inflicted by others and damage we had no stake in creating. We are here as the March for Black Women in unity with a march for racial justice. We are here on journeys towards healing. We are here towards rewriting our narratives and towards reclaiming our bodies and ourselves and our space within the racial justice movement. In this script of invisibility. We will not let ourselves be shaped around how this country sees us. We will not let ourselves be shaped around how this country treats us. We will rise triumphant. We can be free if you are here. No devil in hell can stop you from being free.
That's right. Good afternoon, good people. I say good afternoon, good people. I know it's been a long day, but we still got some energy, right? I say good afternoon, y'all. Today I stand before you not just as the executive director of Sister Song, not just as one of the national co-chairs for the March for Black Women, but as an art activist, a singer-songwriter. And music has been the heartbeat of our movements. Art activists have a unique skill at taking complex social justice issues and transforming them so we can see the issues, hear the issues, and feel the issues. This moves people to action. The High Priestess of Soul, Nina Simone, says it is an artist's duty to reflect the times. In honor of the March for Black Women, I want to honor Sister Nina Simone's legacy. She is one of the greatest inspirations for me as a Black woman and an artist, and she was definitely unapologetically Black. She wrote a song that exemplifies the lives of Black women in the United States. We are not a monolith. We come from different places. We all have different stories. But we all seek freedom, justice, liberation, and our reparations. My people, today I offer you 4 women. My skin is black. My arms are long. My hair is woolly. And my back is strong. Strong enough to take the pain inflicted again and again. What do they call me? My name is Aunt Sarah. My name is Aunt Sarah. My skin is yellow, and my hair is long. Between 2 worlds, I do belong. My father was rich and white. He forced my mother late one night. What do they call me? My name is Saffronia. My name is Saffronia. My skin is tan, and my hair, it's fine, it's fine. My hips, they invite you. Oh, my mouth is like sweet wine. Whose little girl am I? Well, whoever's got money left to buy. What do they call me? Oh, my name is Sweet Thing. My name is Sweet Thing.
invite the March for Racial Justice to dine with us at the University of the District of Columbia, 4200 Connecticut Avenue Northwest. We invite you all to break bread. Let's sit together. Let's lock arms together like we've been doing. So you're all invited. UDC, 5 p.m. will be ending at around 7:30, 8 o'clock. See you then.
Whoa! How many dropped a tear on that one?
Oh, yes.
Music says a lot. So give it up one more time for Monica. Thank you, Monica. So some names you'll know, some names you don't, some names you should. In fact, all names you should. I met this young woman just a few minutes ago, and I already know if I can get a chance to hang with her, I'm doing that. Help me welcome to the stage the political director of Our Revolution and an immigration activist, Erica Andilio. Dilio. I told her I was going to say it wrong. Come on up, Erica.
How do I follow that? Well, first of all, I want to thank everybody for being here. I know it's been 8 months, tiring 8 months, and for many of us, it's been 8 months of resistance. For some of us, it's been a lifetime of resistance. So thank you for being here. You know, just the other day, I was listening to the news, and I was watching everything that the men in the White House and other people were saying about the players who were taking a knee at the football games, and how un-American that was, and how disrespectful that was. And I remembered when I was 11 years old, and I had just come into this country, crossed the border with my mother and my siblings. Without speaking hardly any English, I would be in the classroom, standing up, trying to say the Pledge of Allegiance in any way I could. And I tried and I tried and I tried because I thought that was a way to be American or try to be accepted. But no matter how hard I have tried to be accepted and to be an American and to be called an American, I still get called illegal. No matter how hard I try, I still have to figure out how to help my brother pay his tuition because he's undocumented. No matter how hard I try, I still had to see my own mother being taken from my own house in handcuffs. Not taken, she was literally kidnapped by ICE from my own house. No matter how much I try, I still get calls from my undocumented brothers and sisters telling me that their loved ones are being taken. What do I do? They're in a detention center. They've been there for months for doing nothing. No matter how much I try and how many dreamers and DACA recipients have tried, they still take our freaking DACA away. So you know what I tell the president and I tell everybody else around that said that was disrespectful? I don't care what you say. I am an American. I may not be a citizen, I might not have legal status, but I am an American because you know what it means to be an American and what it means to love this country? It means that you recognize and you remember the history of this nation. It means that you recognize and you know that this nation was built on the land of Native Americans. To be an American means that you know and you understand that this land was built on the back of African slaves. To be an American, you know and you understand that if you're not native to this nation, and if you were not brought here by force, you came from immigrants. What is an American is somebody who actually sees what's happening in this nation and does something about it. And you know what we can do? We can start with calling it what it is. Everything that is happening right now with the undocumented community, with the Black community, with the Muslim community, with our people of color, everything is about why, can we call it what it is? It's white supremacy, not just in the White House, not just in the building behind you, but it's white supremacy in all levels of government. It is white supremacy that has continued to oppress our communities, and we have to call it what it is. And today I stand here to ask you to not just come to a rally, but to continue to stand up for Black lives, to continue to stand up to make sure that we are protecting Native American lands, that we are protecting the water that they have been fighting so hard to protect, that we're standing up for our brothers and sisters in Puerto Rico who right now are fighting so hard to be able to just tell us that they need help after so many years of colonization. I ask you today to please remember that in a couple of months, 800,000 people like myself who have DACA are gonna lose our work permits. We're not only not gonna be able to work, but also the government has every single piece of information about us and our families. I ask you to please remember that. Make a call, do anything possible to be able to give a message to Congress that this is the time to fix this problem, to pass the DREAM Act, and to be able to keep us and our families in this nation. And I want to end with something that we do in a lot of our immigrant rights organizing circles. I want to end with a unity march, and I want to end with us saying at the end, I might not be saying it right, but our Filipino brothers and sisters used to say this with Cesar Chavez and the union and the movement. And it's sak basak, which means one rise, one fall. And I want us to do this because I want us to remember that when they come after one of us, they're coming after all of us. And this is how it starts. Harder! Come on! Isak, baksak. Thank you all so much.
All right, I have to go really fast because we're coming up on time. Who would have thought that happened? Help me welcome up Marissa Alexander. It's about taking action.
Good afternoon, everybody. You may know me from Jacksonville, Florida. I'm the Warren Shack girl. That's me. So instead of being in prison serving 20 years day for day on a minimum mandatory sentence, I'm here with you all in Washington, D.C. And I just want to thank all the people that organized to get me here. And so now I've started my own nonprofit, Marissa Alexander Justice Project, to be a part of this effort and this movement. So, as I think about it, I did 3 years in prison, 2 years on house arrest before I was able to complete my sentence. And that entire time, I thought about all that was going on, and I could see it from the inside. So now that I'm on the outside, it's my moral obligation. It's my obligation to the people that supported me. It's my obligation to women, black women, my children, your children, to stand here and be a part of this movement. I want to say that I don't believe we are a subject of women that are being taken advantage of. We are systematically and intentionally and brutally being preyed upon by the real super predators. And we must know the difference. I'm going to call it what it is. You can say white supremacy. I'm going to say it's super predators. That term was used loosely a while ago, but let me explain something to you. Advantage is a condition or a circumstance that puts one in a favorable or superior position. We are not a circumstance, and we are not situations. We are humans. Predator is a person or a group that ruthlessly exploits others. So what does that sound like to you? We are not circumstances and we are not situations. We are ruthlessly being preyed upon by people. So I wanted to make sure I changed that narrative because it's a difference. So when they were calling people super predators and children super predators back in the day, now you know who the real super predators are because they're taking tax cuts for themselves, sending people back over to their countries after they've helped with our economy, taking away millions of people's health coverage. systematically mass incarcerating people and making profit about it. That's the real super predators. Color doesn't change the value of who I am and make me any less of value. So just like when you go to a car lot and you see a car, it has the same amount of mileage, same car, same everything, but it's a different color, you wouldn't let nobody sell you that car just because the color was different. But let me tell you this. I wouldn't accept that in any area or any aspect of your life, we would accept the same thing about our DNA. Did you hear what I said? We would not expect the same thing about our DNA. I want to thank everybody who brought me here. Black Women's Blueprint, Survived and Punished, and Free Marissa Now that fought, Dream Defenders, and so many other grassroots areas or groups. And so now I'm here to stand before you, and thank you for having me.
Sorry about that. I've usually been right here, especially when we're right ready to start. Help welcome up Reverend Galen Hagler, the local pastor and activist of Faith Strategies. He helped organize the Charlottesville to D.C. march. Reverend.
Good afternoon, everyone. It was an incredible march through my city, Washington, D.C., that is the last remaining colony on the mainland of the United States. And being a colony on the mainland of the United States, our heart goes out to another colony that is called Puerto Rico and the people who are suffering today because of an ineptness of this government to serve the people of Puerto Rico. If you're from out of state, you don't realize that we really don't have voting rights in Washington, D.C. That people in that building behind us are able to impose any kind of law that they see fit on the citizens of the District of Columbia. But let me point out something. That's a house that was built by the hands and backs of slaves. The White House that sits behind us is a house that was built by slaves. Where the archives sit, that was an auction block where they sold off slaves. And what I'm trying to point out is slavery is the foundation of America. It was founded upon slavery. Slaves enriched this country so that folks can enjoy white privilege today. It is because of the labor of slaves, my ancestors, those who went before me. And so when we call out Black Lives Matter, it is because historically black lives have never mattered in this country and to the people of this country. When we say black women matter, it's because black women have never mattered to this country or the history of this country. When we deal with police shootings and killings, the killings of like Terrence Sterling here in Washington, D.C., the old story, unarmed and killed by the Metropolitan Police Department. Not convicted, not indicted, never missed a paycheck, and never had to go off the force. Or Alonzo Smith, who was killed by special police here in Washington, D.C., and no one has been held accountable. Or just a few miles from here, you had Richard Collins III, who was a Bowie State University student and was visiting people at the College Park campus of the University of Maryland, and a white supremacist came along and stabbed him to death days before he was to graduate, days before he was to go into the U.S. military as a lieutenant, and you didn't hear crap from this White House. You didn't hear crap from this so-called president. I'm going to sit down on this story. When I graduated seminary, somebody, a woman who was called, a white woman who called herself progressive and liberal, came to me and said, I want to rent your apartment, can I see it? Because she knew I was graduating. So she walked all through my apartment, looked at every little crevice and crack, and got out the door and said, I think I'm going to take your apartment because after all, I can fumigate it. She never realized what came out of her lips. But this past election, That's what went on in America. They knew that they could sell the fumigation of America to white folks because white folks were so intimidated about the encroachment of immigrants and black folks and brown folks. They understood that sooner or later they are going to be the minority and we shall be the majority. Stand up and hold on to your power. March and continue to change things around. God bless you.
Did you go to church? All right, there are some historical organizations in this country that have been dominant in changing the role of women in the fight towards equality. And today we have with us two presidents and a president and a CEO of some of those organizations. I'm going to ask you to help me welcome to the stage Toni Van Pelt, who is the president of the National Organization for Women, a feminist, and a humanist activist. And she will then be speaking with, right after her is going to be Monica Gray, who is the CEO of the D.C. chapter of the YWCA. Come on up, help me, join them, come on.
Thank you all. I'm here today because we can't talk about racial justice without talking about the ways that racism affects women of color. Women who look like me have a responsibility to show up and support our sisters of color in this movement for justice. For too long, white women have been silent. We have failed to take action against racist systems that have permeated our society, and in doing so, we have fueled them. We are calling on activists across the nation to take action. If we don't make noise, we can expect further displays of white supremacy. For those who marched here on January 2-1 but have not continued to show up for justice, consider this your call to action. And for those here today, I am honored to walk beside you in this movement for racial justice and this march for black women. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm proud to be here representing the YWCA, a movement for gender justice and racial justice with a 160-year legacy. But in 2017, I have to tell you that after 160 years of this work, I owe you an apology. I'm sorry that today we're having a march for racial justice instead of celebrating the fact that we don't have to have marches for racial justice in 2017. But I ask you to continue this 160-year fight that we've been on and continue to work with all of us who are gathered here today to fight systems of oppression that are trying to divide us and use this as a uniting force. And I'm also going to beg you not to get tired. I'm going to beg you not to stop, because that's what they're counting on. And so as we continue this fight together, I thank you all for being here. And we look forward to working with you for these important causes. Thank you.
All right, I told you if you stayed towards the end, we would bring you something spectacular. Come on, get on your feet. She's the one that got us going. She brought our voices together. She understands what together looks like. She understands collective power. Join me in welcoming to the stage feminist extraordinaire, Gloria Steinem.
Oh, no stress here, right? I just have to fulfill this. All right, okay, now, seriously, I mean, I have 2 minutes and somebody's going to drag me off otherwise. So, friends, sisters, allies, co-conspirators. I like co-conspirators better. I'm so glad to see you. You have no idea. I feel like I had to wait for some of my friends to be born. I'm 83 years old. Where have you been? Okay, here's my story. I got on the train this morning, and I was thinking, oh, I should give you lots of statistics and all that. But I couldn't, I can't explain why we're marching, because I don't think anybody should not understand it instantaneously why we're marching. So then the ticket-taking guy, you know, life always supplies something, and he said to me, "Why are you marching again?" So fortunately, half asleep, I had put on these bracelets. Do you all remember these bracelets? They're like this. They're like POW bracelets, right? And one is for Rosie Jimenez, who was the first woman to die because of the Hyde Amendment, because of no funded abortions. In 1977, she was 27 years old, right? And this one is the lack of funding for Medicaid for abortions in other countries, which, okay. So I showed these to him, and I said, you know, look at this. I mean, who is dying are not white women. Yes, some white women are dying, but disproportionately, Rosie Jimenez was not a white woman, and it's the women in the countries of Africa who are being punished by this policy that Trump, who is not the president, has. He lost by 10 million votes, let's just remember. 3 for Hillary and 7 for other people. He is not I have yet to call him president. Anyway, so I have to say that he got it. You know, he sort of understood that one march doesn't make it for half the human race, right? We have to have many, many, many marches so that all of our truths, our lives, the realities, the power, everything, that we can speak and be heard and understand each other. So all the women in the world are in some degree of trouble because it's all about controlling reproduction. It's the why of it. Did you ever wonder why? Yeah, I mean, you know, it's the first step in every hierarchy is patriarchy in order to control reproduction. And so, okay. So, and racism, caste in India, class, it all makes it much worse because to maintain those divisions, you have to control women even more. So these things have always been intertwined. It is just not possible to disentangle these deep caste systems. It is absolutely impossible. They can only be uprooted together. So let's just remember, folks, okay, that gender was invented in order to control reproduction, and we're now disinventing it, right? That race was invented, in fact, in order to justify colonialism and slavery. And we have not done a good job in this country of uprooting the racism that justified slavery. We got rid of slavery, but not the. We should learn from Germany and the Holocaust lessons that every child in German schools learns. So we are just beginning to uproot all of these things. But I think we do need to remember how deep they go. Because the good news about being human is that we're adaptable, so the species survives. And the bad news is that we're adaptable, so we can get used to almost anything. And we think that racism and gender and all this bullshit is, is somehow human nature. The people who lived here for, 99%, the Native Americans, the Indian country still, didn't have he and she in their language. The idea of society was a circle, not a hierarchy, not a pyramid. It's relatively recent that all this has happened, and I find it helpful, I don't know about you, to understand that it wasn't always that way. Now, the other thing that the guy on the train reminded me of is that the march that was, the first big anti-Trump march, when I went back to Union Station, I was schlepping my bag along, and I had to admit that at my age, maybe I needed a red cap. So the red cap who came up to me and took my bag, an older black man who probably should not still be a red cap, and he said to me as we were walking, "Feminism saved my life." So I was surprised. And I asked him why, and he went on to explain that as a young man, he had been a Black Panther, and he thought that he could only achieve liberation with a gun. Then he listened to women like Angela Davis and Fannie Lou Hamer, who I'd like to remind you is a hidden figure of the reproductive justice movement. She helped to found the reproductive justice movement because she spoke out against forced sterilization. And when SNCC wouldn't listen, she founded the National Women's Political Caucus. I'm just saying, the women's movement belongs to, okay. So anyway, so we talked for a long time, actually. And he said great things, like, I've learned how to serve without being a servant. Is that not great? So I figured that because we traded names and you know, addresses, that he wouldn't mind if I thanked him today. His name is Edwin Herndon, and he taught me a lot. And what I learned is, don't worry too much about the shoulds. Don't worry about what you should say or should do. Just talk as much as you listen, and listen as much as you talk. Don't look up too much at Alexa Hente up there. It's depressing. Look at each other. Look at each other, and you'll feel much better. And to the spirits of Rosie Jimenez and all those in Africa who have left us because of the policies, the killing policies of this country, I just have one note of news, which is that the Republican governor of Illinois just overturned the entire Hyde Amendment so that abortions are now available to everybody, not just to women who can afford them. And this is big, okay, because this is the state where Jesse Helms came from. So Trump is so bad that even some Republicans are woke. And to all of you here, I just want to say that this movement belongs to women of color, and it always has. In the very first issue of Ms. Magazine, we published a massive Lewis Harris poll, national poll, about women's opinions of the women's movement and of feminist issues. More than 60% of Black women supported the women's movement and feminist issues, and only about 30% of white women did. So I don't know why people are still surprised, for just obvious reasons, you know. I mean, and it's not like, you know, it's not like we white women are stupid, you know. We're just occupied, you know, by, dependent on white men's incomes, or, you know, watching television that says how to marry a millionaire, or, you know, I always think of the great Harriet Tubman, who explained when she was, you know, so often thanked for leading out of slavery thousands upon thousands of people. She always said, I could have freed thousands more if only they knew they were slaves. So we're not different from each other. You know, our minds get enslaved in all kinds of ways, and we change because we tell our stories, we discover we are not alone, and that we are not crazy, the system is crazy. So I just want to say one thing, because I want you to find joy in this. Joy, okay? All right, I have only recently figured out that laughter is the only free emotion. You can compel fear, obviously, but you can also compel love if people are kept dependent for long enough, right? In order, you bond with your jail in order to survive. But you can't compel laughter. It happens when two things come together and suddenly make a third. It happens when you understand something, right? It's when you learn something. So I give that to you as a measure. Do not hang out any place where they won't let you laugh, including churches and temples, and turn to each other with joy, because we can understand that life is a circle, not a pyramid. And we can understand that each of us is unique, each of us is a member of the human race, and we can restore the kinds of cultures that existed in the first place for 95% of human culture. We can't go backward, but we can go forward. No more boundaries, no more passports, no more immigration, no more who's a citizen of what. This spaceship Earth belongs to us all. Thank you.
All right. I promised you. All right, I'm going to bring up our last speaker of the day. And she has waited all day, and she was amazing this morning, and she fills my heart to think she's coming up here to speak to us. Please welcome to the stage actress, producer, activist to end crime intervention and issues around youth incarceration, Gina Belafonte.
Greetings. Thank you for marching with us. Those of you who heard me this morning, you're going to hear some repeats of this morning, but I really appreciate having this platform and this opportunity, and I want to thank everybody for showing up and coming out. I stand here today in front of you as a woman of privilege, and perhaps not in the way that you might think. Yes, my last name is Belafonte, and carrying the mantle of my family's continuing legacy is among the greatest privileges of my life. But I stand here before you today as a woman of privilege because I have a calling. I have a purpose. And that purpose is one of the greatest privileges that any human can experience in a lifetime. An awareness of something greater than yourself. An awareness that calls at you and tugs you from a restful sleep to say, get up, stand up, and do something. The dismantling of our healthcare, the Muslim ban, the banning of trans people in the military, the ongoing state-sanctioned violence against communities. And need I remind you that nearly half the US population is poor or low income, that 1 in 7 people live below the federal poverty line, and black women, all black women, trans, lesbian, cis, non-gender conforming, all black women are at the heart of this struggle. Our Native brothers and sisters suffer from some of the most egregious violations against their human rights, and millions of us live with the consequences of inadequate health care, housing, food, education, and employment, and with criminal justice and immigration systems that discriminate against people of color, perpetuate racial, ethnic, and gender oppression, and penalize poor people, denying millions access to safety, equality, and justice. Although there is much darkness right now, I believe in us as people. I see a new coordination of activists who are realizing their passion and desire to be part of a movement for change, and that gives me hope. And I am here today to testify that what we may not have in material wealth, we more than make up for in tenacity. We will battle the cancer of inequity that plagues our great country, and we will unite together to form an army of social justice warriors who say enough is enough. We will continue to shift the narrative and reclaim our herstories. We must ask, who are the poor and why are we poor in an age of unparalleled wealth and innovation? Indeed, as more and more people are thrust into the ranks of a global poverty class, the system is finding new ways to shed its accountability and to criminalize poverty. As more people die each year as a result of structural violence than armed conflicts, the ideology of free market capitalism is well at work in masking class conflict and the reality that the laws and structures of our global capitalist system create poverty. While everyday people suffer the reality of unemployment, depressed wages, expanding homelessness, increased criminalization, forced overtime, and a continued reduction of benefits, the economic system that produces and allows for these consequences to exist is deemed infallible. It is our vote that will make the difference. Our vote can send a powerful message. By supporting representatives who bring fresh ideas that work on behalf of us in our local communities, we can build power and strength towards policies to change our damaged immigration laws, our damaged education policies, and violations against our reproductive rights. Our experience has taught us that art and culture are some of the most powerful ways we have to unite people across difference and express the values our society must start treating as truly sacred. Art and culture is a vehicle for sharing and connecting stories, lessons, and values that are illuminated in this movement. It helps us build a community of shared struggle that cuts across the many boundaries that often divide us and reclaim our full creativity that is needed to build the just society we know is possible. If one day I am blessed with grandchildren and they ask me, "What did you do when black women, any black women, regardless of what gender they were assigned at birth, were being murdered in the streets, when unarmed people of color were being gunned down by police, when beautiful people were being threatened and labeled as enemies because of their religions, when people were being torn from their families, when our government lied and cheated us, what did you do? When you let a narcissistic, pathological, hate-filled, racist, white supremacist become president, what did you do?" I will say with pride and conviction, I listened, I marched, I protested, I spoke out because silence is not an option. We must band together and let our voices be heard in the service of community and the forward movement of the human collective. And when they ask me, "What else did you do?" I will say, I listened again. I organized. I stood up. I said no sexual violence, no to victim blaming, no to body shaming, no to derogatory labels, no to gender inequity. And if they ask me again, I would add that I led, I followed, I believed, and I kept listening, which guides me to the truth. I believe in peace, in the power of righteousness. I believe in the morality of humanity. I believe in love. I say to you today how privileged we are to have purpose, to have the calling that wakes us up from that restful sleep and says to us, "Stand up! Get up! And do something! Enough is enough! Power to the people! Peace! 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 Thank you!
All right, if you're sitting down, you need to stand up if you can. You know, we are wrapping up. And I need you to join me in thanking all of the volunteers who helped us today, giving you water, making sure we were okay. Tomorrow, people are going to be marching all over this country in sister marches. Monday, you will have a choice to make. You will need to do something that is brave. How uncomfortable are you willing to be in order to help us have the radical love we need to have. What will you do? Think about it, because the first thing I'm going to ask you to do is take out your phone. I want you to text justice, okay? 228466. I believe it's right here. Type justice. Those letters actually spell out the word action, and if you type justice, you will have a list of what's going on every day. We have to do this. Okay, take a look at the person next to you. We invite you to join the MLK Memorial to commend our brothers and sisters who have been lost into discriminate violence. That will be later today, 7:30 tonight. For those of you who live here in the D.C. area or who will be here next week, we invite you to join Common Cause at the Supreme Court as we rally against gerrymandering on Tuesday at 10 a.m. I'm going to invite you to host a gathering and make your theme radical love and challenge your family and your friends to do something. Challenge them. And if you don't have family and friends, take a look at the person next to you and invite them to your house, to your apartment. Take them out for coffee. Have a conversation. And finally, today, right here, right now, I want you to join all of us who are up here. Turn to the person next to you, because I'm going to need help getting up after this one. But I think we all need to take a moment and take a knee for racial justice. Join us. Join all those who stand up, kneel down, and take pride in what we can be as a country, because together we can reach racial justice. This won't be the first time, nor will it be the last time that we have to come together for the world we want to have. We want to thank you all for being with us today and hope that you will practice radical love. Thank you.